How's it going, Goomy Gang, and welcome to Battlefield 6. That's right, we're delving into shotguns a little bit for Battlefield 6, and it's going to be a fun one because a lot of the shotguns in this game are pretty good, so it's going to be a good time for us here. And with my first video talking about the full release of Battlefield 6, I wanted to share my thoughts on what I prefer to run for the M87A1 Shotgun. Now, a huge disclaimer, I haven't even unlocked all the attachments on this shotgun yet. Grinding this game has been a slog. I've used this gun for a long time, and I'm still not even max level with it. There's still attachments I need, but I have a good understanding of how some of the mechanics work, what I prefer to use when I rock this thing. So with this video, I'm going to go over my build for it that I've been using that you can get early on when you start leveling this thing up to make it as consistent as possible. First things first, I figured I would point out a little bit of some basics for the shotgun mechanics and how they work. Now, if you notice on the screen, just like in Call of Duty, there is a hipfire reticle. It's a circle. That's basically where your spread is going to go. Now, the thing is, though, in this game in particular, you have a fixed number of about 16 pellets when you shoot. When you're hip firing the M87A1, you shoot at a wall, you'll see there's about 16 pellets that come out. And as you'd expect, the spread is pretty random. But the way it kind of works right now, at least with the base shotgun in Battlefield 6 currently, is it's not just that those 16 pellets all have a mind of their own and they're kind of just going wherever in that hipfire reticle. They seem to all have like a center point, and that center point kind of deviates around that circle. So essentially, you could still be in that circle and have your 16 pellets, though, in the top left area of the circle, or you shoot again, and it's now in the bottom right of that circle, but those 16 pellets are still kind of grouped together. So it's not just that that circle has basically random pellets everywhere. There's 16 pellets that's flying all over the place. They're still kind of stuck together. It's just that the variation of where those 16 pellets hit as a group tends to kind of differ in that circle. Now, this is why lasers are important in this game, because things like that green laser actually do help mitigate this quite a bit. And in fact, it makes your hipfire a lot more consistent. So if you're a mouse and keyboard player, or if you like to hipfire on controller, I don't know how you do it, then lasers are your friend, especially like the green laser. Anything that is going to help with your hipfire reticle in general, those are going to help tighten it to where those 16 pellets, that grouping of them, isn't just kind of all over the place in that big circle. Rather, it's going to be a lot more consistent where you shoot generally. I hope that made sense. It's a little weird. It's not just like Call of Duty's spread. It's a little bit different. Just think of it as like spread within a spread, where you have these 16 pellets kind of doing their own thing as a group, and they're just kind of going anywhere in that circle, in that hipfire reticle. Also, to kind of delve into the bloom topic, which is pretty huge in the community right now, shotguns do have a little bit just by default. They're inherently going to have some bloom because it's a shotgun, so there is some spread. There's some deviation when you hip fire and aim down sights. It's not always going to be super close to how most other guns are, but generally, the less you're moving, the less you're jumping, the less you're kind of being crazy like you would in Call of Duty, the more accurate you're going to be. Now, that doesn't mean that your spread is going to tighten. It just kind of means that wherever the point, the center of your spread is generally, that's more or less where it's going to go if you're not really moving as much. Now, it's not super noticeable on shotguns, mainly because the range you're using these things, it's just not enough to be really crazy. Like with ARs and stuff, you're using them at really long distances. It really matters, and you have to tap fire. You can't be really moving as much, or you're going to be very inaccurate. So with shotguns, it's not as much of a deal breaker here. You can still move around, you can still strafe it left and right. Just know that generally you're going to be a little bit more accurate the less you're moving. But it's not a huge deal breaker, like I said, for shotguns, since you have to be really close anyway. But with some basic stuff out of the way, I do want to talk about what I've been running to make this thing even more consistent, albeit harder to use, and that is slugs. Slugs, in my opinion, are a godsend in this game, and there's a few reasons for that. One is because the damage is super consistent. Now, what I want to do real quick is share with you guys the one-shot ranges for the M87A1 shotgun. I was able to find them in game, and they're all very similar, as you'll see here on the screen. Basically, it doesn't matter if you're using standard buckshot, fléchette, or the slug rounds, your one-shot kill potential with this gun is 15 meters on the dot. No, you don't get any more range if you're using a fléchette. You don't get any less range if you're using buckshot. The only caveat to this is if you are using slugs, you do get an extended one-shot headshot range, which is out to about 30 meters. So you can one-shot headshot with this out to about, actually I believe it's 36 meters, but outside of that, it's only going to be a one-shot out to 15 meters. Now, the thing that's nice about slugs is that from head to toe, even if you just nick their big toe or their little toe just a little bit, it's 100 damage, so they are dead. As long as you hit them in this range, it's a one-shot kill, and that is one of the reasons that this is so crazy consistent when you use it, and honestly, my favorite way to run it. I do have the damage profile for slugs here, which I'll show you guys. It is possible to snipe at some distances, but it's funny because in this game, and I don't know if this is a thing in other Battlefields because I never got the chance to check them, but essentially at around 150 meters, your slug kind of just disintegrates into thin air. It's really funny actually, so you can't actually like full cross map someone with slugs. Kind of disappointing, but whatever, it's not a deal breaker or anything. Just know that if you're really going for like sniper distance shots, not gonna happen. Your slug will literally just vanish in thin air in a wisp of smoke. It's kind of funny, but yeah, you can't actually super snipe with this, but you can get some distances out to about 150 meters. You can still kind of quote unquote snipe people. Now the damage at that distance is not super good, and since it is hard to hit your targets, it is going to be kind of a challenging thing to do. So honestly, I would recommend this as sort of like an alternative to being a shotgunner, and just use this instead of the buckshot because it's way more consistent and you have a little bit more range. So it's nice if you're a good accurate player. These are super, super good. As you might expect, since it is a solid projectile, hip firing is not really recommended on these. It will not go generally where you want them to in most circumstances. And since it is a solid projectile, you have to worry a little bit more about bloom. It's more of an issue when you're kind of jumping around, like I said, and moving. I wouldn't jump around anyway because it's really hard to kind of see with your sights bouncing up and down a lot in this game. But essentially, just like with other guns, the more you're moving, the more there's going to be a little bit more of this kind of bloom when you're strafing left and right. But again, with shotguns and even with slugs in those super close ranges, it's not going to matter nearly as much as other guns. Now with this, it does matter if you're trying to quote unquote snipe people, but I don't really recommend it with these. Just treat it more as a shotgun with a little bit more range, and you have to be really accurate with your shots. And that's the real difficulty here, is you have to be accurate. You can't scuff your shot and expect a one shot. You have to hit them, or you're basically dead. Despite that though, I find these way more enjoyable than buckshot and flechette. Honestly, if you want to rock this for a hipfire build, like if you're a mouse and keyboard player, you can rock traditional buckshot or flechette. It really just depends on how you want to kit it out, but definitely rock the lasers. I feel like the lasers are probably the most important part of a shotgun build when you're hip firing. Otherwise, if you're using slugs, it's mainly focused on how fast you can aim and having some decent accuracy when you're aiming. So if you want to see my shotgun build that I've been using for slugs, here you go. And slugs are unlocked at level 8, by the way. You don't have to get them super far into the gun's mastery levels to actually get slugs, which is super nice. So I recommend going for this as sort of your priority, especially if you're a controller player. If you're a mouse and keyboard player, go for those lasers, especially the green second laser you unlock. For my particular build, this is what I've been rocking. I am rocking the 5-round tube because it does help with your aim down sight speed quite a bit. So I find this to be a really useful attachment, and I'm reloading pretty much after every kill anyway. I am using slugs. That takes up 40 of your points, which is a lot. I'm rocking an angled grip because this has no detriment to anything in terms of your accuracy. It just helps with recoil and a faster aim down sight speed, so that's really handy. The light is sort of a might as well just use it. You can use this or a laser if you want. Since I'm not really going to be hip firing slugs, I would just rock a light since you get the benefit of kind of blinding people anyway. Not make or break. You can use a laser if you want, but I prefer this one. It's mainly just because we only have 10 more points to spare, or rather 15, so I can't really rock one of the blue lasers or the green lasers that are better. So there you have it. There's my build that I've been using for quite a bit with this. It's definitely a menace. It's a really strong shotgun, especially with slugs. It's super accurate, super, super devastating, super consistent. Definitely recommend giving slugs a try if you're finding that the base ammo or flechette is just a little too inconsistent for your liking. Definitely try slugs, but be warned, it does take a fair bit of skill. And with that, I'm going to leave it here. So I want to know down below in the comments, what do you guys think about the M87A1 in this game thus far? Have you used slugs on them yet, or do you prefer using buckshot or flechette? What's your go-to build for this? And with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.